asset. That you catching up. That is why also day is going to actually was found, if you can say, discovery of. So with all of that, we're using that information basically stage. And so today's topic is about eating.
Mike G, and you are watching Will Hustle TV. Stay tuned.
All right, man, Will Hustle TV, man. Introduce yourself, brother. They don't know who you are.
My name is Mike G. I'm a partner at United Talent Agency, so I work with a number of artists.
Man, you said something, my friends and family are like, oh, another documentary idea, another business idea, right? And I'm like, when you said you had 30 artists and 20 ventures, how do you maintain that?
We have 24 hours in a day, right?
Yeah.
I think you could do anything you want as long as you put your mind to it.
Okay.
And I think what I do as far as like being productive, I work in blocks.
Okay.
So I'm up at 5 a.m., so I'm an early riser.
5 a.m.
I'm a 5 a.m. club.
Okay.
I start my day off with praying, reading, meditating, because I got to get my spirit and my mind right.
Man,
that's the number
very
one
important,
thing.
very
Like God is definitely number one.
Come on, man. Listen to
before we do anything else, because all this stuff is temporary.
Yeah.
That's like my number one goal. Then I go to the gym. I forcefully go to my gym, you know. It's a young person's industry, so I got to stay young.
Okay.
And I curate my day throughout work segments, right? So like if I have a tour to work on for specific artists, it could be like from 9 to 9:30, I'm working on this artist. 9:30 to 9:45, I'm focused on this venture. So you can fit a lot throughout the day.
Yeah.
You don't have to fit everything in.
Okay.
But as long as I feel and I go home and I felt like, hey, today I was productive, today I got 1% better.
Yeah. How important is team?
It's everything.
Everything.
Right? And when I say team, it's team, first of all, team at home, your family, because that's who you go home to.
Yeah.
Team at work is significant. And by the way, when you have a team, it doesn't have to be a big team. As long as you have people you can trust that can help you scale, that's everything. Like your friend right here. You know? Yeah, that's your old friend. That's your team.
So essentially, if you pay close attention to how he laid out his day, he wakes up around 5 a.m., but a lot of what he starts his day out doing is building the foundation for what he's going to build upon as far as the character he's developed, right? So going to the gym, which means we talked about this a month ago, getting your health right and stuff like that. He meditates and prays and things like that, getting your mind right and developing some kind of character. And the next thing that he has to think about is how he can manage his schedule. And for him, it's working in blocks, right? So for most people, again, like I said, when you're thinking about utilizing your network, some of you try to do all of this by yourself. I mean, we all tend to do it as artists because it's just the, the beginning stages of being an artist. But when we're considering, let's say, what value we're trying to bring to a network, how many of you actually consider the things he was saying, waking up early and trying to figure out, what's going on spiritually, making sure you are prepared to serve others in order to get what you want from the music industry, right? Because he could sit back all day and say, working for Cardi B, Akon, and Lil Wayne, I deserve more, I deserve this. But he's actually providing a lot of value up front, which is damn near undeniable. But the point here is that it starts literally the first thing when he wakes up in the morning.
Right there, that's brother. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I asked another person this, why is it so hard to break an artist in 2026?
I think the challenging thing is, it's a few things, right? How do you break the cycle? How do you break? There's so much news out there today. So like back in the days, it's like if I could get on the radio and I could get on a mix show and I could break a record, I had a chance to really go as an artist.
Okay.
Now it's online, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's looking at metrics, everyone's looking at engagement. Engagement is key. But I look at it because you're not only competing with other artists, you're just competing with the news cycle every day. There's so much being fed to us and our algorithm. That's what you're really competing with. So you got to think about, how can I stand out? How can I break through?
And so when we think about this as artists, you're probably thinking in your mind, or even as a fan listening to him, you're probably thinking, well, put out more music, right? Go back in the studio and practice your instrument, right? But in reality, what a lot of artists are doing is they're leveraging their network. So instead of going to find better producers, more musicians, and improving their band, they're doing that, but they're also finding partnerships with certain companies, finding leverage in certain values that they have, and then utilizing that to garner relationships, let's say with an agent like Mike G here, right? So for the most part, you're going to have to be the value you plan on delivering to other people. Like, you have to literally have it already. And for, like I said, for a lot of you, it may be, you know, your musical talent, it may be your catalog, it may be how cool you are, maybe the network you already have. But the point here is that you have to be the one to have it, right? And so Mike G saying what he's saying makes a whole lot of sense, because if you consider what we talked about a month ago, how algorithms and tech companies are actually on the exact same algorithm as you, a random little musician in their room trying to, you know, record for TikTok, that makes a lot of the conversation that you're willing to have as far as who's in your network a lot different. So just consider that whenever you're making content and things like that.
So it's tough, and I think it takes a certain type of artist that's mentally resilient, that's persistent, and that has a focus and a story they want to tell. But persistence does pay, and the overnight success thing, that's far in between. There's journeys.
Yeah.
There's journeys with every artist.
You say that, even when you go viral, you still have a plan behind it. What are you going to do afterwards?
You can go viral for a song, and I can put you on stage, and you don't know how to perform.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that also, how there's a lot of artists today who don't have musical talent, performance talent, but they have a brand, they have a look, or maybe they have influence. And so what he's showing is that there's actually a separation between the algorithms, your popularity, and honestly your brand communication, and the skills you need to actually survive when it comes to getting on stage. Because getting on stage is directly related to your entertainment value. It has nothing to do with how we feel about you or anything like that. Maybe a little bit, but most of it is how you perform on stage.
So performance is key. You got it's really like, you know, it's like sport. You got to work on your game.
Yeah, that's a fact. All right, man. Appreciate
you.
Learn how to make $100,000 from 1,000 true fans. Click the link in our bio and download
the little ebook at the end. But yeah, a lot of what people are thinking about though is like, for example, even with that little ebook, like that's not going to work, because you pretty much have to be the person to know what it is you are demanding from the music industry. So when people are trying to consider, oh, I want to get into the music industry and I'm gonna make a bunch of money because I rap really well, well, that tells me right there you don't really understand networks or how to utilize a network. And Mike G's network was bigger than the people he knew. He was talking about the gym, he was talking about his spirituality, and he was talking probably giving a little bit of gems on like how he was raised and the principles he believes in order to garner his success. So let us move on to the next clip, and let's dig a little deeper again in how to bring value to your network.
Hi. How y'all doing?
Okay, so far we've had 3 intros.
What's up, YouTube? You're going right in. I'm Drill Sergeant. You know who I am. But you also might know who this is. the one and only Cam James. What you guys may know him for most recently is taking down people with fake degrees.
This time, I'm talking about Rashad Ritchie, JD, PhD, EDD, MBA, and LLM.
Or taking down people who are grifting the community.
If you get paid to spread nonsense about an underserved community, it absolutely qualifies as a scam to me. What I'm about to say next is for FBAs. They go by a lot of names, network or social marketing, direct selling, relationship sales.
But we're here where they teach music because I want the first thing we talk about to be your music. I thought you might be comfortable here, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know that you are a musician, you're a rapper. Do you play any actual other instruments?
No, it was always just vocals on my end, but of course I mixed and mastered my own stuff, so got pretty deep in the weeds.
Okay. So talk about it. How did you get into music? Was that your first passion?
Yeah, very much so. I went to Georgia Tech, and in my junior year, some kind of guys on campus discovered me while I was doing spoken word. So I was doing poetry, just kind of performing around campus. And Georgia Tech had their first ever spoken word contest. And it was.
So we can already see an example of how his network began. It started with him already having the skill to be proficient in spoken word. If he didn't have that, most people would have not recognized him. So whether it's spoken word, whether it's you can cut a lawn really well, or you can walk in a straight line perfectly, you have to have some kind of value to provide to your network in order for people to approach you or see the opportunity in working with you.
It was public, so in front of the whole campus, and I won that. And some kind of like guys who were watching the competition noticed that, I sounded like a rapper. So my spoken word was not like, spoken word artists, what they sound like.
Yeah.
They're very ethereal and very abstract. I was very much like a cappella rapping.
Okay.
And I wasn't even aware at the time.
But you still won, though.
I won because I shocked the judges so much with my kind of straight up just bars with no music.
Right.
So some guys who made music on campus overheard that and kind of like put me under their wing, right?
Okay.
To teach me the ropes on how to use Pro Tools, how to record myself. We shot campus music videos. And so through all that, I discovered a passion. And
so now with his network, he basically learned even more skills, how to make videos, how to perform, how to basically be an artist from the independent perspective. And it's really going to be valuable for him because he can now understand these skills and then utilize them elsewhere, which we saw in the beginning of this video. But for most of you, you guys are thinking that going into the music industry, what you provide is all you need to provide. What you do is all you need to do, right? You ever seen those videos of like couples talking to each other and things like that, and they're like, well, what do you bring to the table? And then neither person can say anything, right? And so the point here is that he maybe not in the moment, but as we're looking at hindsight, he had immense value in the beginning that provided him access to a network that brought him even more value. But if you're not thinking this way, this would be just considered all luck.
Discovered very quickly that these guys are good, but like I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like I have like solo artist potential. Like that became apparent not just to me but to them as well.
Right.
And so they gave me the tools. Like I'll give them infinite credit. They were called Not Those Kids, this collective on campus, and they really like helped activate that spark for me to learn the ropes, learn how to record myself, punch in, punch out, all that type of stuff, and figure it out. And so from there, mixtape, ad infinitum, you know how the beginning of our career goes. And I just kept going and had some success. Over the 10 years that I was making music, I had some songs on TV shows. I had festival appearances and things like that. I was playing with a band and so my self-organized shows. So it was a real passion. And that led into film from there because who's going to execute my music videos like me?
Right, exactly. And you didn't go to school for film first, right?
No, I'm completely self-taught.
And you're good at it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's funny because I've done, well, wait till the hello is it? I kind of follow the same thing. So I have my own music studio and I kind of wanted to start my career being the guy who records you, the guy who mixes you and masters you. But I also, play in bands and and the whole nine. As a musician from this high, knew what I wanted to do from the beginning. Turns out that making YouTube videos or all types of video production, then people start hiring me to do video production and things like that. We wouldn't know about the setup today, but turns out that it's just I don't know how to describe it, but it's the same kind of artistic expression. It feels the same almost when I'm sitting there editing. It feels the same, right?
When you drop a video, it feels like dropping a song. Like it's a project, and the thing about video is that audio is just one layer of it.
Yes.
So it's actually more complicated. It's more rewarding because you get to do several things and combine several skills and put them all out at once. So I would say that passion helped me kind of meet that thirst that rap satiated, but also add more to it.
Yeah.
Right?
So now when you're thinking about what you do as an artist, right? And honestly, think about even like the top level musicians and entertainers. How much of what he just explained that he needed to know in the 10 years of work that he did in the career that possibly you do or do not know, did he have to be in control of? Because if you think about today's singers and musicians, they don't know how to work a digital audio workstation. Their claim to playing multiple instruments is just at like a novice level. There's no true proficiency. Their ability to record an album takes forever because they need a producer. So the level of value that he has, he would still have to show it in competition with all the other people who just have, you know, other areas of value in their network. Like maybe you're just a cute girl who can sing really good. Maybe your school teacher who taught you music is like connected to other people. And so that kind of helped you navigate the music career. But for him, it really dove down to his skill set and how he utilized his skill set. And of course, the people he used it with, right? So most of you, when you're thinking about what you do well, you're probably trying to think of ways to not make it feel like a job. And that is going to shoot you in the foot every single time when you want to compete with somebody that does want to make it a job. And so when you hear that, you're probably discouraged. You probably feel like I'm saying something that's not true. But the reality is that you're dealing with people who join the music industry to make music and they have no love for music and don't even know it. They don't understand music theory. They don't understand craftsmanship, like he was explaining. They don't understand any of that. But their success is driven by their understanding of their skills and their values of the skills of the people around them. So I'm pointing this out to say, you have to try your best to see that you're good at something. But if you want to be good in business, you have to have a competitive mindset. And so a lot of what he's saying as far as like wanting to be good and things like that comes from the influences he had. It's not this whole like he just has some innate passion to be some good person. No, because he saw a standard in the industry set by other artists and other producers and videographers and filmmakers, and he compared it to himself and then chose to rise to the occasion. A lot of you cannot do that. A lot of you fail to do that. A lot of you can't do that alone. And when I say that, you think you can. And so again, applying it would make it look just like his career. 10 years of grinding through music, 10 years of learning the skills, 10 years of probably dealing with all kinds of people and stuff like that. That is the application that we're looking for. We're not looking for ideas, or I wish I could, or coulda, woulda, shouldas. The point here is that most people who are going to watch this, whether you're a fan or an artist, have more talking points than they have actual fruits of their labors, right? And that really does come down to how you've utilized your network so far.
Said the 10 years that you were rapping. You still are though, aren't you?
Technically, I haven't like actively made anything in a while, but I got unreleased songs that I hadn't released before YouTube started that I still love. And I'm like, okay, when am I going to release these? I have a music channel where all my music lives that isn't active, more of an archive at this point. Yeah. But I'm looking for kind of an inroad to, get that started again. I don't want to be like a touring rapper at any point. Like that part of my life is over. Yeah. But just to get that creative energy out, and I still like rapping, so that'll start up again at some point.
So how many of you heard what he said and thought like, oh, that's going to be great for him, right? Well, the reality that we have to highlight here is that approach to music, especially today with how technology companies have used music, is going to suffer in terms of what he's going to be in competition with. So if he wants to truly garner success through his music, he's going to have to shift his mindset on what he's doing with his music, right? So if we're going to take what he said and what he wants to do with music, I want it to be an archive. I don't want to be a touring musician. I kind of just want to, just get my creative expression out. Well, you got to ask yourself, well, then how does that garner any kind of benefit from the music industry, right? It may benefit him personally. He may feel all cozy and warm inside because he's listening to songs he used to make. But the point here is that you're essentially saying the music you're going to make or currently have and you're posting online for people to consume is just there to do. There's really no point to it. There's no drive. There's no strategy to it or anything like that, right? Now, as I say that, again, a lot of you may be offended. You'd be like, no, it's a nice thing he said. It sounds very pleasant what he said. And I think I agree with him. He should just express himself. Well, that's fine. But this is a musician's channel where we're trying to actually thrive and compete in the music industry. So again, when you're having these conversations with people, you got to pay attention to the language they use and also filter out what kind of person you're talking to. And this in real time is what I'm doing here in the first episode of this week's theme called Reading the Room. If a rapper told me what he just told me, I would not work with that rapper in the sense of trying to compete and getting royalty streams and making money in the music industry. They would be cool to hang around with and, swap ideas and maybe pander around some beats and stuff like that and tinker around like, oh man, I remember that one track back in the 2010s or whatever. But when it comes down to hiring them in order to get a hit, in order to get a smash hit album, or trying to actually produce something that's going to compete with the Drake Iceman album, he just said that he's not trying to do that. So let's not force him to do that, right? Now, when you hear this again, you're going to think, well, no, he can be successful doing what he just said. I don't think he can. I think he can be comfortable with what he said he's doing. But in terms of success, remember our definition here, being a superstar, he's actually saying, I don't want that. And so let's not force it upon him. Let's actually just say he wants to chill and rap, right? Which is not bad. It's just we have to look at it for what it is and say, okay, so that means whatever he posts from now on, as fans of him, the expectation should be that of which he just laid out. And that is, he does not want to push this forward. He does not want to do merch and stuff like that. You guys can say, wow, these beats are dope. You got a hit right here. I play this song every day. He just told you his expectations for what he just put out, right? So doing that, right, means that he now has to look at the people who interact with his music a certain way. So if you're a musician that feels like him and you feel like, okay, one day I'm just going to chill out and just make some music because I feel like it, or just see what people are vibing with, or I just want to express myself. Well, you now have to look at people that listen to your music as people who aren't going to really understand that, A, and the people who do understand that may have certain expectations of you that might not align with what you want to do, right? So that could be, oh, I want to play the flute and do my laundry like Andre 3000. Well, if you have quote unquote music fans, that's not music they're paying to go listen to. So a lot of the times you're struggling with being successful, funding your passion, and then also trying to feed an audience that actually cares about what you're putting out. And if you can't bridge that gap, a lot of the times you're going to be finding yourself confused as to why you're not as successful in music as you would want to be. Well, it's because of this mindset right here, is that you're not really trying to compete for the sake of competition. You're trying to be comfortable and you want to just do something that makes you feel good, like expressing yourself.
YouTube, this would be something that most people don't get. I have a bandmate who is like, we're a three-piece, and the guitar player is just that dude. Like, he's always that ADHD, I gotta go, gotta run, I want to be big. And there comes a point in your life where it's like, yeah, we can play these gigs, we can rehearse, we can do all the stuff, but can we get a licensing deal or something? Because I'm not trying to go to. There comes 100%. A point you would think that, when you're younger, it's like, that's the dream. I want to be.
I've actually had this conversation with younger musicians. Did you know that getting ASCAP, it probably changed by this time, but it was like the 2010s when I was doing this. Back in my day. But it was the 2010s when I signed up for ASCAP, the Association for Composers and Publishers, right? So the American Society. But when I joined them, it was like $50 to get both the publishing and writers' rights added to my lexicon and my catalog. for some reason, a lot of artists didn't want to do that. They saw it being more valuable to get the cash gigs of like $100, $300, $1,000 here and stuff like that. But that $50 going down the line is going to be worth way more in terms of royalties and sync deals and licensing deals, because you're now inputted into the database. But that also meant that they had to put the instruments down. They had to come out of the studio and learn a little bit about tech, understand the law, understand the pro rata pool, understand how tech companies are affecting these things, right? And so, again, like I said, if you're going to be a musician that's just like, oh man, I just want to chill and just do my gigs and sleep with groupies and drink beer and just hang out, like we were seeing in the 70s with the groupies there. She was saying how their bands back then had like a hard time getting certain singers and guitar players to just do the business because they were so drunk or lazy or enthralled with these little young women that were around the venue trying to get on stage, right? And so because of that, it kind of puts a dissonance in what you're trying to actually accomplish and receive from the music industry. You're trying to actually get licensing deals and sync deals, but the AR and promotional manager that's watching your show is seeing how you're struggling on stage, right? They're seeing how you're not actually driven for business, how your focus is more about expression than it is actual, capitalism. And again, artists hate this, but it's just a separation between what you ask for and what you're going to actually receive, right? So most of you just want to just sit and play your instruments and just be expressive. And I love what I do, and I'm cute, and I sing, and I'm on TikTok, and I have followers. And like he said, eventually you're going to look up and say, okay, I want a licensing deal. I don't want to keep doing this every day. I'm turning 50. I'm turning 60. I got kids. I'm getting married. So what you're going to have to do is look at your network as an asset, because your skill set can only take you as far as your network can carry you, right? If you're a really good singer on TikTok and we all follow you for doing it, that's cool. But if you can't ask for anything from anyone, then what's the point?
Be out there.
Yeah.
At some point, it's like, I'm not sure if maybe there's an amount, but I'm not sure if there's an amount you can pay me to be away from the wife or the kids for 6 months at a time.
It's not what it's glamorized to be.
Right.
Just traveling all the time, performing for either fully empty houses, half empty houses.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the occasional packed show, it depends. But that grind is real, no matter what level of this industry you're on. Hitting the road is not something really anybody wants to do for an extended period of time. It's a real grind.
Hey, you on the other side of the bed and ain't think I noticed? We had sex last night. I know it can't be the COVID. What's your motive? Baby, help me decode it. Shit's affecting my heart. Temptations without the orders. Reading back the text I wrote and I ain't think I was hurting your feelings much. Girl, you know I mean what I say. You can't pick up my sense of humor from a text. I'm known to be pretty blunt. I ain't blowing smoke. All I need is an ounce of trust. We are not exclusive. I been treating you like wifey cause you been holding me down. Just be doing shit like Nike. At 23, I was stupid. The years since done enlightened me. I become a mashup of rapping black and spike.
So a lot of what you're going to see here is people trying to be expressive, right? And even like through that song there, I can tell that it's a very personal song and like it's poetic and things like that. Like he said, he started out with the poems in college and stuff like that, right? And so when you're seeing that kind of stuff, I noticed that stuff immediately. And again, like I said, when you guys hear the words I'm saying in real time, it's like, oh, you start grabbing your pearls. But like the music was good. He was rapping really well. The video was shot really well. It was colored nice and cool. But he told us he doesn't want to use any of that for his success as far as the music industry. He wants to get into filmmaking. It is what it is. So then when I say this stuff out loud on a surface level, like, oh yeah, not gonna make it. It's just, it is what it is, right? And it's nothing to shame against him. He told us with the skills that he developed that he's chilling. He just wants to just express himself. So this is the kind of thing that most people are going to find jarring with this channel, is just that there is almost no comparison between you watching this and Taylor Swift. There is no comparison. The only difference between you and Taylor Swift is saying yes. That full body yes thing Miley Cyrus was talking about was that with all the skills and assets and network and ability and thinking and wisdom that he has, he's still deciding to say no. Okay. And most of that comes from his experience. Maybe he just doesn't like it. That can be a personal reason. But on the end of this all, it basically means that what he's asking for in terms of the music industry, you're not gonna get. Like, you're not gonna be able to sit at home, make songs, and then we just come to your channel and you don't have to come perform, you don't have to network, you don't have to do all this stuff. It's just not gonna work, right? And so that's kind of the point here, is that you want to be able to leverage your skill set to build your network. And then also you want to be able to build upon your network's skill set and assets, right? So it really wouldn't benefit anybody to come along and say, let me shoot your next music video, let me help you make a song, because he doesn't want to do those things, right? So we have to be honest about that when it comes to what we want to do, but we also have to be able to identify this stuff when we're dealing with other people. Like how the interviewer heard that would have been the first thing I picked up on, was like, okay, so what is the separation between what you had in love for music and then why you don't want to do it now and transition into film? It can't just be there's more passion and more skill in the film, right? But again, I'm a musician. I'm going to angle it from the perspective of a musician, not a regular guy thing. So I always tell you guys, stop trying to relate yourself to your fans. Stop trying to be a normal person. Stop trying to be average on purpose, right? Because you don't want to be. If your goal here in this channel, you're watching this, you're like, I want to be a really good independent musician who understands the game and I can find success, then stop trying to act like somebody who isn't in the game and is successful on an elite level. Stop trying to act like the peons of the music industry and relating to them, right? Peons meaning like they have no power, they have no access, they have very little resources, right? So if you're a singer right now and your biggest, let's say, influence and inspiration comes from other singers, then you're going to hit the ceiling of singers. But if you think of it from the perspective of, say, like a business tycoon, an executive, but you have the mindset and perspective of a singer, you have a little bit of a leverage in terms of your perspective to use that within your network and use that within your skill set. So let's get into our last clip of the day, and then we're going to get you guys off for lunch. And this one is going to kind of tie everything together for you guys, and it's going to make most of the sense in terms of utilizing your network and trying to figure out what it is, who it is, and how it really works. So let's get into it.
I don't think enough artists really take advantage of it either. You could hold DM 50 producers or artists that you want to work with within 45 minutes at the palm of your hands. And if they don't respond, you lost nothing.
Right.
Exactly.
Crazy the opportunity we've gotten in the past 20 years. It's ridiculous.
Well, we did this. Matt and I are in a band called Z Frequency. That's like my little logo hat here.
Okay.
But we've been in bands since like '91 doing this thing,
gosh.
and we had like our ups and downs, you know, and there was this real long hiatus or sabbatical, and we just started getting back into music just a couple years ago. And I was
Random
trying to
B-roll.
figure out, I didn't know anybody at the time. Like at that point, I was out of the scene. I didn't know. So we had the idea of kind of just doing a podcast and trying to get connected with musicians, and it's kind of just blossomed. And I didn't think anyone would really be interested in, but it's been completely the opposite. And so I love it
Right
because
on.
we get to meet new people like you and people from across the pond, if you will. But let's start with your story.
So that actually is a good insight on how you can utilize your network to get back into things, right? Like he was saying, they took a hiatus. They've been into the performing music industry scene since the 90s. So in order for them to really acclimate to the technology today, they had to deep dive into it. Now imagine them saying, we're just going to stick to what we know, we're going to stick to our roots. It wouldn't have worked. They'd have been screwed, and they'd have been worried about like why no one likes this thing from the 90s anymore, right? And so they dove into learning new technology, new skills, and now they have access to new networks, which now they can utilize for themselves.
Let's do it.
How did you get started?
With just music as a whole?
Yeah, like what, like there's always a starting point, you know. We call it the aha moment, you know, like when you know, I think most people to some degree will dabble in music to some level, but there's a certain point with musicians that take it to that next level where they're like, okay, I got to keep doing this, you know. Like what was that like for you?
Well, it's funny because I've had music in my life, my entire life. Like I'm sure you've heard it before. When I was 6 years old, if we went to a family friend's house and they had a piano, I was on that grand piano. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even if I didn't know what
Yep.
I was doing, you might scream at me from the other room. But when I was like 13, 14, I believe it was actually the summer of 2017, we had a family Mac. You know, like remember like the Mac desktops?
Yeah.
And I got a pirated version of Logic Pro. I was probably in like seventh grade going into eighth grade. And I would just sit there. All my friends were outside. I would sit there and I would play around with it. And it became such an escape for me. And I realized if I just keep, even at that age, being as young as 13 years old, I knew if I just kept getting at it, I was going to get better. And then around 14, I started taking it really seriously. I was a freshman in high school by now, and I just started releasing vigorously on SoundCloud.
And this is actually a similar story to a lot of people, just the difference between him and most people. Like, even myself, I had a similar story. For me, it wasn't Logic, it was Fruity Loops and Reason. I had pirated version of Fruity Loops and Reason. But the point was that the dedication to sit down and get the skill set at such a young age is going to be something you can leverage when it's time to have the conversations at an adult age. But one of the things you're going to notice too is that when people have like young children that are trying to become musicians or stuff like that, or just young children in general, there is an opportunity there for the parent to then expose the child to, let's say, a new skill set or something like that, right? I think along with his age and along with the, I guess you can say, the interest he had with music, he had zero distraction, right? And I say with his age because the time era that he grew up in, there were less distractions compared to now, right? So a lot of times when you see parents with their kids and stuff like that, they'll have tablets and things like that, and they'll say, oh, the tablet has music apps and stuff like that as teaching the kid. But really what they're missing is the tangible skills that are going to translate into the industry. The tablet can only get you like a basic understanding. What the child really needs is constant application and reassurance, so that way they can have the confidence when they're not with the tablet, right? And so what most parents are going to deal with is when you take the tablet away, the child throwing a tantrum, because the point of the child throwing a tantrum is because they have an attachment to the device. There's nothing going wrong, but it's really down to the parent saying, okay, but I know it's right, and putting them in the position to be exposed to these certain things. So I'm saying that to say this: him having access to Logic at that time was almost unprecedented for his age, because it was pirated, but it was also in a time where there were no distractions outside of school and friends for people his age. So now when you're thinking about people who want to get into music, the skills that I'm talking about, that, let's say, the last clip Mr. Cam James needed, most of those skills have to be applied with the intention to get something out of the music industry, not for understanding alone. Because once you have that, then you just have knowledge for no reason. This is one of the things my mentors in college told me. They were saying, you can memorize all this music, but there's really no point. You can try and get really good at your instrument, but there's really no point. What you need to figure out is how you can leverage what you know, leverage what you've memorized, and leverage your skill set. And that's going to shape how everybody's going to look at you, right? Because you can look at a musician who's super talented on their instrument, but they have no drive, they have no passion, they have no charisma. And it's not to take a shot at the guy in the last clip, but he literally had all the skills you would want as an independent musician and turned it down. He wants to just be himself and chill and do films, right? And so with that, you have to have situations where the parents are actually like facilitating this kind of journey. We looked at that with Lady Gaga, where she was 14 years old and her parents were taking her to clubs to perform live. They were under her, she was under their supervision, which made it so much better. But the point is that there is a lot of things that come along with developing the value in your network that you may not be aware of, like your upbringing, your parents, the things you had access to as a kid, like the piano he talked about, the computer he had access to, and then also having parents actually facilitate the position for him to be successful. In terms of like tablets and phones and screen time and stuff like that, there is a huge controversy between parents and having to deal with a child's emotion and then going through that child's emotion to get the result, that of which they need as an adult. And that struggle right there is honestly going to be something that, as musicians, as young musicians, we have to navigate, and we can't really put it on responsibility as our parents, because our parents usually are tired. They're usually coming with this average person mentality, usually like, I just want to chill, or it'll be all right. You'll be fine. I did it too. I came out okay. They have this attitude, which again goes directly against what we're trying to promote here in this channel, which is to be a superstar. And most superstars don't have this average lackadaisical attitude about things that they really believe are serious for them. So for him, at such a young age, for some weird reason, he couldn't probably pinpoint it at the time. He found an extreme interest in engineering audio. And it came from probably his love for playing on the piano and then trying to write music or construct or at least understand the music. So now that he has all this understanding, how can he leverage all of what he knows into some kind of opportunity for himself? Well, what he then did was he took what he learned from the digital audio workstations and started to actually create. He created songs and probably beats and all kinds of stuff working with people online because it was so easy to do back then. But the point here is that he used his understanding and leveraged it. He wasn't just like, oh, I know that song or I've played that song before. I learned that from that one show. No, he's actually becoming a part of the music industry in real time. And that's a part that the reason I'm pointing out the parent part is that most parents don't get that. Most parents who are, they have like young musicians or even like young students and things like that, the application of what they're learning is really going to be taxing. It's going to take a lot, which is why you've seen Lady Gaga's parents doing what they did for her. And then when you fast forward to who Lady Gaga is, it starts to make sense. We see the same with Joe Jackson and Michael Jackson. His movie just came out and everybody's still telling the story about how he got that 2 or 3 ass whoopings as a kid. Like that matters. But the point here is that there was a huge intention on what that young boy knew and how he was going to use what he knew as leverage to be successful. Most parents don't get that. And again, artists ain't going to get it. But it's important to highlight here is because he was doing this at a young age, which allowed him to garner so much leverage younger. So when he did become of age, learning things like music business was easier because he didn't have to learn scales. He didn't have to learn music theory, how to make a beat, how to organize a digital audio workstation to get a song complete. He didn't need to do that anymore.
Of course,
Okay.
kids made fun of me, but
Yeah.
I wasn't letting it stop me. I knew I was just going to keep getting better.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's pretty typical.
Kids making
actually.
fun of me could be in the title of my autobiography, man. So, like, if yeah.
You're like, whatever, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, haters gonna hate. You know what I mean? And most of the time, they're just jealous, really.
Right.
That you've got something to grab onto, where they haven't even figured out,
Of
what
course.
they want to do. So, but yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Gilder era. That kind of
Good.
struck me. Yeah. So what is that to you, and describe what that means to somebody watching?
So for me, like I just said, I've always struggled with kind of people yapping at me and having plenty of people to prove wrong. And I feel like there are a lot of people that just need that reminder and they just simply want to be a part of something, especially right now. I feel like there's a huge loneliness epidemic and people just
Mm-hmm.
want to feel like they're a part of something. And the Gilder era is a reminder to all of those people out there that are struggling with their confidence, or maybe they want to take a shot at being an entrepreneur or a musician like we are. Their parents are telling them to go down more of like a traditional path, and they're kind of in this back and forth. And that's just a reminder. Around October of last year, something just snapped in me where I was like, I either give it my all now or I don't do it at all. I'm tired of just kind of dabbling and releasing whenever I want. So yeah, the Gilder era is pretty much just a reminder that if you just combine vigorous amounts of self-belief and action together, it's going to result in success.
And most artists, they hear what he's saying and they believe what he's saying. But again, when you apply it, you then get to see all the characteristics that you truly have that can help you garner that success, right? So most of you are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to do it. But then the minute you put some sheet music in front of you, you start crumbling. You don't want to learn. Now it takes too long. Maybe you could find a shortcut. You start downloading Suno immediately, right? That's the part that separates most of us from you guys. You guys is regular, degular, humdrum artists and musicians, right? And for fans, you don't really need to know this information, but it does help you understand which artists you're supporting as far as what you're going to receive from the artist, right? So I'll break it down from the 3 little angles that I usually do: the artist, fan, and investor, right? As a fan, it's important to understand what he just said, because now you can see, okay, the artist I like and the artist I support has a drive. They plan on giving me whatever it is I'm paying my good money's worth for, and they're also possibly being honest. And it's a little bit of integrity to who you're supporting, right? As an artist, it's good to understand this, but it comes with a different perspective. You can understand it, but then you have to figure out why you agree or don't agree with it, and then apply it to see whether your agreement or disagreement with it makes any sense, right? And so you as an artist have to do that alongside proving that to investors. So let's say you have somebody who wants to help work with you on beats, help produce your next album. Maybe you're looking at record labels to sign you and things like that. Well, are record labels looking at you as an artist who's going to release whatever they want and just want to express themselves and don't really have a drive to compete for the bottom line that other record labels have? Or are they looking for you to be a superstar? And so these are the things you have to understand, because a lot of you are just regular artists and you want to do your thing and express yourself, but it's becoming taxing because you're not applying the business mindset. And what does that mean, Dane? Well, I'll tell you, little chicken bird. The point here is that if you have gigs and things like that lined up, you have an instrument you're playing, you got a whole bunch of music you've recorded and stuff like that, and the only thing you've done with that is just create the music, then that means you haven't leveraged the music. You haven't leveraged your network. That means the people you do gigs with, the people you're hiring gigs with, you're not finding ways to develop more opportunities to make investments into your own business, right? And what that may look like for most of you is just, you know, singing at gigs in your band every month or so, and you just making like $300, $400, $500 a month, right? On the other side of that, you could be making that $300, $400, $500 a month, but have a plan for the money, right? You can have a plan for the time you spend, right? So for example, I'll say for like myself, like I have an orchestra gig. Playing in an orchestra allows me access to a lot of really smart and talented people, right? The resource there is obviously the time, and resource there is obviously the network. If you want to negotiate payment and all of that, how much more work do you think you would have to do? Right? And so the answer there is usually what turns off most artists. Most artists are going to hear what he says and say, yeah, maybe one day I'm just going to snap and I'm just going to double down on my passions and put it all in. Well, when you apply it, how long does it take for you to get what you're asking for? You think in just like a year, everybody who's offering you an opportunity is going to pay you $1,000 a gig? You think suddenly you're just going to get a living wage now that you're getting paid? Like, how do you think this really works, right? And if you think it's based on how you feel about music, yourself, or your creation of music, you're in for a rude awakening, because there are a lot of times, and I'm gonna use this example almost every time I can, there are a lot of musicians in the subway right now busking for cash. And they are really talented musicians. They can play classical pieces. Some of them can sound like Michael Jackson and James Brown impersonators. But at the end of the day, they are the musicians that are playing in the streets, busking, right? Now, you can busk and nothing's wrong with that, but what does that really represent, right? It represents your ability to perform a skill, but it doesn't represent your executive acumen, right? It doesn't prove that, okay, this is somebody who's a superstar, honestly. Because think about it. Would you ever notice Beyonce just in the park, just busking? No, you wouldn't notice that, right? Because it's not a thing and it wouldn't exist. You wouldn't call her Beyonce. You would call that just some girl. There's a singer in the park, right? And so now that we know that, when you're comparing yourself to all these other people, how would you change how that looks? How would you approach busking? Would busking be something that is just a part of your musicianship, or would busking be a stepping stone, if not an opportunity or avenue for you to leverage your skill set? I don't know. But the point here is that you guys would hear what he said and then just agree and then scroll off of this video and think you're going to do something. And that's not going to happen ever, ever. What you really need to do is hear what he just said and then break down a plan on what you're going to do.
Cool. I like
That's
it. It's almost like
fantastic.
your exclamation point. It's like you're painting a picture of go for it, you know?
Of
Like
course.
that's what I was thinking. Like just go for it. It's your version of go for it. And you're speaking words of encouragement, you know?
Right.
So I absolutely agree with that.
Well, and I think it's wild that in it, touching back on how connected the world is, that we're more connected than ever, but it can be so isolating at the same time.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
But I think the more, I think that what you're doing is fantastic, just because you never know whose life you are going to touch. You never know whose Instagram feed you're going to pop up on in a moment of crisis, in a moment of need, and and to inspire people, and I think that the world needs more of that. I think absolutely, bar none.
Okay, So let's look at what he said in two different ways. And that's what makes this channel so interesting, right? As a musician, hearing what he said, I heard two different things. So how many of you heard what he said and thought, yeah, if I make a song and it's really, inspiring to somebody, I should keep going because it's possible that, I could inspire somebody who this affects by, just scrolling on their Instagram and it's like, oh, snap, I really relate to this artist. I want to support. How many of you heard that, right? On the other side of it, this is what I heard. If I wanted to do that, then I have to compete with everything that's taking that person's attention. So that means their family's algorithm, their personal algorithm, the political algorithm, the religious algorithm, the adult entertainment algorithm. And then they're just stuff that's just trying to scam and fraud them. There's so much information and data that they're talking about that is on this, just for the example, the platform Instagram, that if I wanted to do what he's saying, then that does not look like me just expressing myself. What that really looks like is Facebook ads, a marketing campaign in the 6 digits. That's what that really looks like. And when you artists hear this stuff, you get turned off and you think that, no, it should just be the love of the music. People who love me will do this. Well, that's true. But people who love you and listen to your music also may not pay for it. They probably will just love your music. And so this is the conversation a lot of artists need to have when they're looking at their networks, right? So like people will have my phone number and stuff like that. And it's good to have my phone number. I'm a cool person, right? But the thing is if you have my phone number and you don't utilize it to your best of abilities, then what's the point of having my phone number? That's basically what I'm showing you guys. Like you guys could have skills in music. You guys can be super nice and really appreciative and you express yourselves and you guys know how to do spoken word and you can do poetry and you can film videos and do backflips and you look cute and the girls got nice clothes. What's the point? What's the point of having it all if you're not going to leverage it to win, right? And usually when I point this out to artists, like I said, it's an offensive thing because now they have to rethink everything that they love about their career. If you love the attention you got from being cute, well, now you have to leverage being cute, which means being cute is no longer just fun. You got to start being cute on purpose, with a purpose. If you're a person that is like taunting yourself as being the best rapper or best lyricist, well, you got to apply that. Now you got to compete with everybody who makes more money, looks cooler doing it, and you still got to look cooler, make more money than them people, and prove on the top of all of that you're the better rapper and better lyricist. Some people hear that and they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that and combine their personal expressions and trying to book shows and stuff like that with that journey, with that struggle. And so it turns you guys off. What I'm highlighting here, at least with this episode and here on this channel, is that there are artists that do that and they don't know that they're doing that. They think what they're saying out their head is going to garner success, as far as I just want to just post whenever I feel like it. I just want to chill. It's going to be all right. And it doesn't work. It almost never works. And so now that we're pointing this out, where do you lay on this conversation with your music? Like, how are you going to be approaching things going forward when we're considering all of the nuances and things that you have to worry about? Like I just said, with the massive amount of information on social media, the leveraging of networks of people that probably aren't the best for you as far as like your homeboys and friends and things like that. How do you view your career? How do you view your music and, your process and things like that? Are you investing in yourself and stuff like that? Most of you are just here today. Like you woke up today, you probably got a song or a project you're working on and you're just going to record it and then publish it and have no real campaign behind it because you haven't developed the network to leverage your music or to leverage for your music, right? So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode because we're going to get back into it tomorrow morning. I will see you guys for another episode of Musician Talks tomorrow at about 9 a.m. But this episode was really interesting because we got to kind of take a look at how networks are leveraged. Is it really going to be something you want to do? Do successful musicians actually pull this off properly, right? And so when we're looking at this, I want you guys to be able to do this as fans, as artists, and also as investors, and bridge the gap between all three, because artists say all this stuff all the time. I'll be scrolling Instagram and I see you guys talking about how to blow up on social media, how to blow up on TikTok, and why nobody views my shorts. I got 100,000 views on my shorts last week. This is what I did. And then when I hear that stuff, I'm like, who cares? You got all them views and you made no money. What's the point, right? And then if you do make a bunch of money, you probably spend it all on just stuff. There was no true investment into yourself, right? And again, it's something that you guys do, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just we have to call it for what it is, right? So again, when you see me posting online, a lot of that stuff is just posted online. If you see me posting something official, you will know it's official, because there is a complete difference in an approach how I would do that, right? But that's my personal approach to this. Let me know in the comments, if you were a musician, if you were an artist, how would you approach music today? Would you just be dumping music out because you can work really fast and really talented? Would you be trying to make some kind of strategic plan for yourself and becoming a superstar? Let me know. But I will see you guys tomorrow morning. This was Musician Talks with your boy, DameSmiff.